shuffling. You begin with the challenge. Your Honour, your challenge. That's all you have to say. They know in law they have to address the challenge to see if it's a valid one. They'll say, well, on what grounds? Now, with bias is done in 3 gradings. There's actually grade 1 bias. Now, that could be any involvement with anything, family matter or whatever in relation to this matter. Or apprehension of bias. But the third one never appears in a bias paper. Indictable bias. Now, when I get to that one, I would then say, Your Honour, the paperwork I filed and served reveals the Crown removed without the referendum. You're automatically in federal jurisdiction. Doesn't matter which court this is. You're in federal straight away. That then says the judge or magistrate exercising federal jurisdiction with a personal interest, 2 years jail. Now, I've got you on indictable offence before we begin the paperwork. Fair? All I've done is walked you into the trap of the challenge. Now, if that then wants to open up into the bigger offences, well, you shouldn't really be sitting because they're going to come now. So to protect yourself, you should just simply say, this matter's sitting sine die now, it's adjourned, and get the hell out of the bench, because it's going to come. But it's going to come not in what you call the confusion of the paperwork, where most people just say, well, you're under arrest, but you didn't set the stage to do that. You didn't set the platform to say, I'm going to exhibit X number of documents, and Your Honour, if you do not handle them correctly, you will be placed under arrest. That's what you call a citizen's arrest. Anyone can be arrested without warrant where treason is the issue. That's the law. So if you've proved beyond reasonable doubt that treason has occurred here and they're about to conceal it, you can arrest them. But what do you do next? You do an affidavit of what just happened. That's critical. You'd either do it that day where you can remember everything, because they will play around with the transcript, and make sure that's a fully done affidavit. And then you do 1 or 2 originals, and the original is just simply saying you're doing the same affidavit on the same day with the same JP. Do it. Because that's going to become a critical document for your next process. Your next process is you can go down to that cop shop and say, I place this magistrate under arrest, now it's your job. Go and do it. Because under Section 9A of the Victorian Crimes Act, that's the Act for Treason, under that section, the cop has got to do it. Under Section 80 of the Criminal Code Act 1995 Commonwealth, the cop has got to do it. So one's state police, the other's federal police. You can activate both because automatically it's both state and federal. But it's one of what did you do next after you did that process. So the what you did next becomes absolutely critical. Now, in Des's case, because it's magistrate's court, he's got the right to go to the county court on appeal. Now, what that says is a slam dunk, because when you sign the paperwork to go to the county court, it actually says you are granting permission to increase the sentence. And you're not going to get hurt if you don't sign that piece of paper. But nobody knows that they sold your county court. So judges actually have to book the court to have the hearing. Is that legal? So it's all part of the challenge if you unroll what we're about to do. And then when you go to the police, automatically you've got the police in a problem. Now here's what one copper said to a man in Sydney with his lawyer standing beside him in Sydney. The copper said, we all know the Crown and the Queen's been chucked out, but we're under martial law. We can shoot you dead. And that's come into an affidavit now. The copper's going to wish the hell he'd never said that, because we're affidavit people. If you're a copper in Sydney saying that, you're in an affidavit, which means a grand jury in Victoria can call you into the Victorian grand jury. Can't do it any other way because they're going to stop it, they're going to block it. But I've had a lot of trouble understanding who's doing the blocking until I understood this trustee, UN, and what the hell that all did. But You can go and get every bit of information you want on what happened in Yalta in 1945. That's one of the exhibits at the High Court. But in the interim, one magistrate in Castlemaine said this to me: I suppose you're going to challenge the jurisdiction of the court. And I said, I wouldn't be that stupid, because it belongs to, it's an agreement between myself and the monarch. That's what it is. But I will challenge your jurisdiction of sitting fraudulently in this jurisdiction. And that's a totally different challenge. So he said the right thing. He said, okay, you've got a 6 weeks adjournment, go to the Supreme Court and get a writ of prohibition against me to stop me hearing. That's incorrect. But if the guys that are doing these arrests are not going to that writ of prohibition, they're not going to the next step. Is that fair?
Yeah. Brian, can I just share something?
Are you on the jury?
Yeah, but I mean, can I have leave for just a second?
Yeah.
Just want to add to what's more recent. I was with Desi last year, many of his court appearances, and saw what happened, and we got asked the police to do their job, and they didn't want to do it. They want to take orders from the public. So I've done it a few times myself, and recently in Moore, Latrobe Valley Court, I was there on an alleged minor breach, which turned out to be a fine. But what happened, I did the same thing. I had the documents that we prepared earlier, which I've given to the court, and also the prosecution and the informant. But it was a perfect storm situation where everyone was there on the day. So it was time to say, well, Your Honour, we have to deal with the issues of bias and jurisdiction. So I said, I had the papers here, the prosecution's got them, and so was the informant. But they didn't have it there on the day, they just wanted to disregard it. And it stated everything in detail, all the criminal acts, the dates, who were the offenders. So on the day, the magistrate demanded, in a nice way, well, give me the documents that you're relying upon. So I had spare copies, which I always do. So I handed it up to the magistrate. He read them out. I didn't read them out. I mean, he read them to himself, and he says, I read those documents, and he put them down. So to read those documents as a magistrate, you have to have full knowledge. He decided to proceed and started disregarding everything and wanted to go on with the matter. And I said, hang on, you have to deal with this matter first. This is criminal indictable offences, and you want to disregard it. And I said, well, right now, I arrest you for misprision of treason. And he was trying to disregard, never saw it coming. And I just paused, waited for a proper response. And I said, I arrest you for misprision of treason. Anyway, by that time, there was a bit of confusion going on. And I had good 12 people, supporters. 4 of them stood up and said, I support that arrest. And at that point, the magistrate said, no more talking from the public gallery. And I said, you've been arrested, you don't even have any authority to talk to the public gallery. So I said, I arrest you for misprision of treason. And on the 4th time, of me saying that, he says, I'm standing down now. And at that point, I said, you're in dishonour, pointed my finger. All security guys there didn't know what to expect. The cops were just in shock. And I said, Section 80 of the Criminal Code Act 95 Commonwealth says I must report it to a constable. I pointed to the police prosecutor, and they did nothing. And he walked out. Then the security just politely, very politely, said, can you all please leave the court? They escorted us out. And so that was the end of that day. So I went back to support another guy who was part of the support team. He had a court matter on the 20th of January. And so I went in there to get a copy of a court order. So whenever you go to court, there's always has to be a record of it. And you've got to see what happened. So the court order states what the charge is or whatever. He was a sitting magistrate. And in the remarks column, it talks about did you plead guilty or not guilty or no plea. So the little registrar gave me the copy of the order and said, on there it said, in-person plea of not guilty. So it said, so it showed Jerry. Jerry was there, the usual crowd. And they said, you better take that back and get it corrected. So I said, this is not correct. I was present in the court, but not to hear any matter. The magistrate stood down. So I said, I'll get it corrected. So half an hour later, I had another copy of the same order, the same number, the same magistrate, and it said, no plea taken, ex parte. See, it's 2 different orders. One's a fraud, even though the Crown's removed, and that created a problem. So I went to the police station and said, I appealed that on that day. So I went to the county court for a directions hearing where they just fixed another date. And he was on the screen, so it was like he wasn't in the court. And I said, we need to deal with this matter. I arrested the magistrate on this such and such a date. And I'm not going there, we're going to fix a date. And this was Judge Maloney. And that's what he does. So it's put out the 28th of April. And I said, well, I arrested that magistrate and I'll arrest you too. At that point, I was sitting right in front of the only person, court officer, was the county court registrar, who we've dealt with Jerry's case. And she has full knowledge, and she was given a notice to admit document that all these things have happened in law, and she hasn't responded, 14 days to respond. So anyway, so I go back on the 28th of April. They're still got to deal with two different orders for the same charge. One said I was present, the other said I wasn't. And with all the information which they already had filed into the court, with the crown removed and all the other activities. So they've got a real problem with 28th of April. Yeah.
Now, what I want to do is read a section of the law that Jim just quoted. This is section 80 of the Criminal Code Act 1995. This is chapter 5. The header is the security of the Commonwealth. The whole chapter is on treason. This is the best law you're going to hand up. And it says this: knowing that another person intends to commit an offence against this subsection, talking about treason, and treason is as simple as breach of allegiance, R versus Casement 1978. Other than this section, does not inform a constable of it within a reasonable time or use other reasonable endeavours to prevent the commission of the offence, penalty, life imprisonment. Any judicial officer can be charged with that. Any councillor can be charged with that. Anyone sitting on a water board affecting your water rights can be charged with that. Well, it's available on our website and whatever, and there's some more over here somewhere, but they're all on those boards. You can actually photograph or whatever. But because you asked for the copy, here's yours. Now, what I want to take it, the drunk juror is going to have
Cheap drunk. Stoner.
Give him the paper. You're only going to make it worse.
How can you make it worse?
This is what you call a my will letter. This is done by Peter Horton out of Adelaide. And do you know how to find this on the web, Jerry? Yeah. But just Google my will, and I think this will pop up. Now, this is probably one of the really better ones because it's done on the web. By signing this, you're granting him legal power of attorney to present this as a grand jury application. This is available on his website. There's some here, you can take them away because he sent me some blanks that are not signed yet. So by the combination of that application to grand jury, this one and a few other things, we can put a lot of pressure, and I'm only saying that when I say we, because I've been pushing this wheelbarrow up a very big hill for a hell of a long time with a hell of a lot of bricks in it. And to be quite honest, I'm thinking I should just let the damn thing go and it will crash through your car. But you're not doing anything. But if you start to do something, you're making the judiciary accountable.
Sorry, Brian, where did we get that?
You can have one right now. Take this.
We'll sign them.
But you'll find that it's on Peter Horton's website as under my will, grand jury work.
Mike Holt's doing them as well, I think.
And I will. Yeah, but here's where you come to that problem with Mike.
It's got the link to that document.
Sorry, it's okay. But it was Mike who never arrested the federal coppers in his lounge room.
Yeah.
So the point I'm making is, why go website when you don't do the arrest? And he's the RSL guy I was talking about, and he's the one who interviewed me on his podcast. So what I'm actually saying, if they're staying within their own bloody computer, there it is, they're not getting in the courtroom. And if you want to get in this fight, you've got to get in the courtroom. Or you don't get the documents. You don't bring it right in front of them. And you do that so graciously, they don't see what's about to happen. You're going to be placed under arrest, Your Honour. Now, the best thing to do is, before you do it, go down to the cop shop and show them the law of treason. That says you must inform a police officer.
Yeah. And we did that. We did that before and after. I forgot to mention that.
Now, if they then don't put that to the grand jury thing, it's going to go nowhere. But if they know, are you going to... Well, I'll give you a little thing that happened to me in Werribee. It was a traffic ticket. Just hold on to those. These are spares. You can pick them up before you go. But copper pulled me over for using a mobile phone. But when a copper comes to your window, he has to log in his book what's said at the window. And I had 2 acts that I had on my passenger seat. I was going down to Werribee to copy them. And he gave me my ticket. He said, "Here's your ticket, Mr. Shaw." I said, "Well, here's your these are these acts in defence of the ticket." He stepped back like 3 feet and didn't want them. So he didn't know what I had. But now he's in the witness box at the Werribee Magistrates Court. And I said to him, "When I went to hand you that document, you stepped back, so you didn't take the document. Is that fair?" "Yeah, that's what I did." So I said, "Is this the document?" But I'd switched the documents. I handed him up Julia Gillard's criminal charge. That wasn't the document I had in the car. But because he didn't take it, he didn't know what document I was trying to hand him. So I said to him, now I'm handing it up to him, 4 coppers sitting in behind me, magistrate there. I said, is that the correct document that you Victorian Police use when you're criminally charged? "Yeah." I said, "So has it been correctly sealed, signed by the registrar?" "Yeah." "Is it the exact same document you people use for the criminal offences?" "Who's the defendant?" Now, this magistrate's court is only 1 street over from her office, 100 yards. Julia Gillard, he said. Now, he's saying that as a policeman in the magistrate's court in Werribee. So what should have been his job when he looks at this charge sheet?
Activate.
No, I said, "Can you read the whole charge sheet out? This is not the document I had in the car." So I'm fessing up here. I lied. I cheated. So what? They break the rules. There's no rules here. I said, "Could you read the charge out?" He read the charge on Julia Gillard word for word as a copper. Now, I said to him, "Thank you for reading that. You're now under arrest for concealing treason. Don't bother leaving the witness box because, Your Honour, you're with him." And the 4 coppers sitting behind me, I said, "Well, and so are they." Now, it's actually what you call substantiated in the Werribee Magistrates Court. Now, that went to the County Court on Appeal. But now the coppers are not so angry. They're talking to me in the little interview room type thing, but they're trying to be friends. Because by then I'd nominated for an election, not to be one, but to expose what they were doing. But I said to the coppers, "I'm not going to put you in the witness box. I won't barbecue you like I did in Werribee." But then a barrister come in that's been talking to the prosecutor and said, "Mr. Shaw," and she put her hand on my arm like she's trying to nurture me or something. "Mr. Shaw, this should be in the High Court." And I said, "Now, you got a problem with that?" And she said, "Like what?" I said, "I've already criminally charged all 7 judges of the High Court for the same offence. I've got these two." Well, she took my hand off like straight away. "I've got to go talk to the judge." And then I said to the coppers, "Why's she run out of here so quick?" Because she knows, as a barrister, she cannot be a barrister in this court. Because you coppers, you've still got your oath of allegiance in the Police Act. She hasn't, because it was taken out by Rob Hobbs out of the Legal Practice Act. Are you aware of that?
1996.
Are you aware of that?
2000.
Now, if you
That
take
was
the
the
oath
act
of
that came
allegiance
in
out of the
the-
Legal Practice Act,
It was
where's
taken out
that
in
legal
2000.
lawyers?
Right.
Another act.
Say Whistling Dixie, and it'd be correct. But is the same law firm going to issue an invoice that says you have to pay us 40 grand before we take on your matter? Hang on, copper. Crown's gone. So are you trying to obtain property by deception?
Yes.
Got 'em. But if you don't go and lay the charge, you haven't got them. Okay? Because every law firm out of West Australia will have the same law firm here in Victoria. That's what you call the causal effect or link of the problem. If you do nothing, you'll end up with nothing. Fair comment?
Yep.
If you do something, now I'm not saying you have to do anything at all. But I remember saying to my son years ago, if you keep watching that TV, it won't be there when you come home from school. He thought I was kidding him. But one day it wasn't there. He searched every cupboard in the house. I said, I told you, stop doing it and go outside and do something. And the only way I could stop him was to give the damn thing to the Salvos. He spat the dummy. Then he joined the Navy, and the Navy has a saying, if things are going wrong, dry your eyes, sweetheart. So I give that to him a few times, and he goes, oh, yeah, whatever. But in the meantime, he became a Navy boy. And when they go and do that Anzac March, because they all march in the ships they served on, my son marches beside Warwick Gatley, my opponent. And he's also your opponent, because he issues your election writs. He issues your senators and your councillors. No, never attack the council. Don't ever do that. But you can criminally charge the CEO. And you got the whole council. Just one charge sheet, one defendant, and you got the whole council. Everyone in the council. Because they're all complicit to that charge. That's what you call vicarious liability. Look up that word in law, and it actually means who's ever in number one charge is liable civil and criminal. So who's ever the boss of big roads is able to be criminally charged and catch the whole of big roads.
Can I ask a question? Fantastic night tonight. We've got an elderly gentleman here that's not very well, so we really need to make a move. The best thing we can do is sign that document that you handed out earlier in the night about hulls, and go and tell as many people what was learned tonight, and then call them.
Correct.
And start arresting people.
Hang on. No, don't say that. Do not say that. Because unless you do it correctly, which actually means your participating jurors can't be pissed at the time. And she's going to go, I only had one drink. My wife has a half a glass of wine and goes to sleep immediately.
Prima facie evidence.
So it all happens. But in the meantime, my wife would say, you should never have said that.
That's on film
Okay,
too.
that's okay. But I know the effect of alcohol on women. So she can say, I only had one coke. But I mean, she's sitting over here pissed. And she's not an official juror.